This is a bad price of greed. The phone rang late in the evening. A wealthy businessman picked up the call, only to hear the trembling voice of his son crying in the background. "Daddy, Daddy, please help me." The father's heart skipped a beat. His son was supposed to be in school. At first, he was confused, but then another voice came on the line. "Listen carefully," the stranger said coldly. "You have 48 hours to bring 5 million naira. If you fail, your son dies. And even if he dies, you will still pay because we know where you live. Don't involve the police. They won't be there when we come for you." The call ended. His wife broke down in tears while he desperately searched for a solution. With no time to waste, he withdrew the 5 million naira and followed the kidnapper's instruction. He dropped the money at a designated location and waited anxiously for his son's release. But what he received in return was something no parent should ever experience: his son's lifeless body. The kidnappers had vanished with the money. The couple collapsed in grief. Their only son and only child was gone. Everyone wondered what had gone wrong, curious about the circumstances surrounding the tragedy. I dug deeper into the story and discovered how it all began. Months earlier, a university student named Dami was having a conversation with his close friend, Douglas. "What business pays the most money in Nigeria today?" Dami asked jokingly. Douglas smiled. "Kidnapping." Dami laughed. "That's ridiculous." But Douglas wasn't joking. "I've heard people make millions from it." Douglas continued. "Enough to buy expensive cars and houses in Lekki." Dami shook his head. "I don't need that. My father is wealthy. If I want a car, I can get one. Besides, I'm his only child. One day I'll inherit everything." Douglas didn't let the idea die. Day after day, he kept bringing it up. He spoke of quick money, luxury lifestyles, and freedom from waiting for an inheritance. Slowly, the seed of greed began growing in Dami's mind. Eventually, Douglas presented a plan. "What if we stage your kidnapping?" he suggested. "We'll rent a hotel room. You pretend you've been kidnapped. We'll call your father and demand a ransom. Nobody gets hurt." Dami hesitated. "But that's my father's money," Douglas laughed. "Exactly, your father is still young. Why wait decades for an inheritance when you can enjoy some of it now?" The idea echoed in Dami's mind for weeks. Eventually, he agreed. But there was one condition. "We only asked for 2 million naira. Douglas nodded. The plan was set. They rented a room and made the call. Dami cried on cue while Douglas played the role of the kidnapper. Everything seems to be going according to plan, until greed changed everything. When Douglas demanded 5 million naira instead of the agreed 2 million naira, Dami became furious. "What are you doing?" he shouted after the call ended. "We agreed on 2 million. Douglas shrugged. "What difference does it make? How long will 2 million last?" The argument grew heated. Dami demanded that they stick to their original plan. Douglas refused. Then Dami made a suggestion that shocked him. "If we are doing this, your father should be next." Douglas frowned. "My father is poor. He will find the money somehow," Dami replied. "You are his only son too." Douglas became angry. The argument escalated. Neither side was willing to back down, realizing things had gone too far. Dami reached for his phone. "I'm calling my father," he said. "I'll tell him it's all fake." At that moment, panic took over Douglas. If Dami spoke, everything would collapse. The police would come. Their lives would be ruined. In a moment of desperation or fear, Douglas grabbed the knife. Before Dami could react, Douglas stabbed him. Dami fell to the floor, bleeding heavily, fighting for breath. For several minutes, he begged for help, but Douglas never called an ambulance. He never sought medical assistance. He simply watched. Within minutes, Dami was gone. Douglas proceeded with the ransom collection. The frightened father paid the 5 million naira exactly as instructed. After collecting the money, Douglas disappeared. No phone calls, no social media, no trace, no school. The grieving parents buried their only son, believing he had been murdered by kidnappers. What they didn't know was that their son had become a victim of his own greed and the greed of someone he called a friend. The tragedy destroyed one family, but somewhere Douglas was spending the money, making new friends, impressing girlfriends, and living a life built on betrayal and blood. The saddest part of the story is this: Dami thought he was cheating his father. Instead, he was helping his own murderer. Sometimes, the people who destroy us are not strangers. Sometimes, they are the very people we trust, the people we welcome into our lives, the leader we defended, the politician we voted for. The tragedy is that betrayal rarely comes wearing the face of an enemy. Most times, it arrives disguised as familiarity, friendship, loyalty, promises, and hope. That is one of life's most painful lessons. The story you have just heard may appear to be a crime drama about greed, deception, and betrayal. A young man trusted a friend who slowly poisoned his thinking, manipulated his decisions, and ultimately became the architect of his destruction. But beyond crime stories lies a deeper lesson. The same principle often applies to leadership and politics. Many citizens place enormous trust in politicians because of ethnicity, religion, party loyalty, campaign promises, handouts, rice, and few thousands of naira, even emotions or personal interest. Yet too often they ignore the most important indicator of future performance: a person's history. Words are cheap, promises are free, campaign speeches cost nothing. But CV and personality and their past record speaks louder than slogans. You don't expect a baron not to be heartless, someone said. When choosing leaders, citizens should spend less time listening to what politicians say and more time examining what they have done and what they stand for. The past may not tell us everything about a person, but it often tells us enough. A wise man once said, "When people show you who they are, believe them. But when you stumble on what they are, then be careful." people don't really change when it comes to hurting feelings. If a leader has ignored public sufferings before, citizens should not expect miracles afterwards. If a government has failed to improve the lives of ordinary people during its first term, it becomes difficult to justify rewarding that failure with another opportunity. Don't try it. This is why many people say, once bitten, twice shy. Wisdom is not merely learning from our mistakes. Wisdom is refusing to repeat them. Today, many Nigerians face enormous economic hardship. Food prices continue to rise. Transportation costs continue to increase. Electricity remains unstable. Unemployment remains a major challenge. Many families struggle daily to survive, insecurity, and a lot more. When citizens look at their situations and compare it to the promises that were made during campaigns, if they are not lazy, then they should use that conclusion to decide their candidate in the following election. Questions are not hatred. Questions are not rebellion. Questions are accountability. In every democracy, citizens have the right and indeed the responsibility to evaluate the performance of those they elected or duly elected. A voter should never become so emotionally attached to a politician that they lose the ability to assess performance objectively. Leaders are public servants, not kings. This is not a traditional or hereditary position. Presidency, Senate presidents, Senate members, it is not a royal position or hereditary, something you earn because you were born there. Public office is not a birthright, it is a responsibility. If you acknowledge that a previous decision did not produce the expected outcome, there is no shame in admitting error. Dust your PVC or register for new one and be ready for the election. History has shown that some leaders perform well in one term and poorly in another. Others never perform well at all. That is why citizens must constantly evaluate leaders based on results rather than emotions, propaganda, or political loyalty. The future of a nation depends on the quality of decisions made by its citizens. This is why I take my time to make these editions. A single vote may appear small, but millions of small decisions shape the destiny of a country. A drop of rain makes a river sometimes. Therefore, before supporting any politician, ask, what is their record? Have they improved people's lives? The citizens in particular, not their mates, their friends, their cabals. Have they managed public resources responsibly? Have they fulfilled previous promises? Are they accountable? Are ordinary citizens better off today than before? These questions matter more than slogans. On your mandate we stand. They matter more than political parties. I am in APC. They matter more than campaign posters. More to come. Because at the end of the day, citizens do not live inside campaign promises. They live inside the consequences of leadership. And consequences are always real. A word is enough for the wise. Choose leaders carefully. Trust cautiously. Remember history. And never vote for suffering simply because it arrives wrapped in familiar silver tape. Thank you for watching till the end. See you next Thursday and bye for now.